So, talking a little gaming. Sony notes. Put it in there. Put a burr. Paris Games Week talk. Hence the French in the title. So, some different moments. I was going to say weird, but it sort of isn't. Certainly, it's stuff that divided quite a lot of people. I'll give my takes on it. But let's get to the pre-show stuff first, because there was quite a bit of stuff there that I was actually excited for. The first one was the official confirmation that Guacamelee 2 is coming. Loved that game, and it's now getting a sequel, apparently sometime next year. They did it on the PS4 stage, but I'm guessing it is going to be multi-platform. So then there was, like, I guess Hotline Miami meets Payday sort of thing, called the Hong Kong Massacre, and it looks to be top down, but with like modern realistic graphics, where you're shooting a load of people in a building by the looks of it. So as I say, yeah, sort of Hotline Miami, but with more realistic looking characters rather than a animated style. Then we had the Gardens Between, which had a nice, very nice art style. Another 2018 one. I think that one they said was late 2018, so in about 12 months' time, more than likely. Then we had a date for Loco Roco 2 remaster coming December 9th. Then they talked about The Sims 4, because that's coming out in a couple of weeks. They've announced... Really, it was a look at the expansions, which I didn't think was that necessary, but basically anything that's had been a free update to the PC version is going to be an update to the PS4 version for free. So there won't be anything different in that respect, which I guess is good. But there will be DLC, by the sounds of it, at launch. Which I guess makes sense. Then Tennis World Tour had pretty much a teaser trailer. Graphics look good. Then again, I guess they did for the PS3 10 years ago, and it's hard to tell sort of a difference, but there wasn't any sort of face likenesses or anything, so clearly they're still trying to get the rights for that exactly. So that's coming in the spring. Then the VR stuff. So we had Megalith, which is like you becoming some sort of like god. So I guess it's, by the looks of it, it's VR first person, sort of like you becoming the monster and evolve, maybe? Hard to tell. They also had Bow to Blood, which is apparently some sort of fantasy TV show thing, which did look very Treasure Planet in style in terms of the ships, and you've got to then, like, with your move controllers or whatever, or your DualShock, shoot the enemy sort of players or enemy things at you, sort of first person as you're driving. So I don't know. Apparently that Megalith thing, though, is they're also classifying as a hero shooter. I've no clue what that word means. I know I'm supposed to be an expert at all this stuff, but I have no clue what that means. At all. There you go. Ultra Wings VR, which was very sort of Pilot Wings crossed with a flight simulator, because you were sort of like in like stunt planes and like gyrocopters and whatever doing stuff. But then there were other bits where it's like, here's some rings for you to go through. Here's a target for you to land on accuracy. So clearly it's inspired by both. Probably more in the vein of Pilot Wings. Hence the name Ultra Wings. I guess copying it and giving it a similar title is allowed? Maybe? Then we had Sprint Vector, which was like, I guess SSX meets Airblade. It was basically sort of a rollerblading racing game. Concept seems intriguing. Execution, we'll have to see. Moss, they said, is now coming out in February. You can pre-order it if you choose to. Probably not the best thing to do, because it will probably be cheaper somewhere. But, from what I've seen of Moss back at EGX, it did look very cute, even from a non-VR perspective, when I was with a friend who was trying it, so that was nice. Then there was Star Child, where they were like, oh, here's a new power that we're showcasing. And it was some, like, cinematic cutscene with, like, possession or telekinesis or something. And that was it. No gameplay, just, oh, here's a artsy cutscene. That isn't what we're exactly looking for. Guys, especially when it's VR, because we want to know what it's actually like. Then they detailed, or did a trailer for the Not a Hero DLC, which basically seems to be Lucas from the Weird Family is turning into Jigsaw, I guess, to Chris Redfield. I don't know. Then 2 games which are out now. Dead Hungry, which basically is you, food truck, making burgers and snacks and drinks for zombies. And if you don't feed them, they'll eat you. Zany fun. It is from the Pixel Junk guys and everything, so it's going to be sort of off the wall a little bit. And then Stifled, which basically looks to be Perception, which, if you remember, was that sort of like game where you're blind and you have to make sort of sounds to get the echolocation to see it. So taking sort of elements from Scanner Sombra, if anybody's played that. Or, as I say, the big one was Perception, because it was the one that sort of did well on Kickstarter, and then everyone lost interest in. It was certainly in that respect, although it seems to be more of a horror aspect, which, with Perception at least at the minute, it's unclear as to that. League of War. Because, yes, we need a VR tabletop RTS strategy tower defense thing that basically just looks to be World of Tanks or War Thunder or any of those games. We don't. Then Final Fantasy 15 Warriors of the Deep had a focus, and they've confirmed that is now coming November 21st as a standalone thing, so you don't have to have Final Fantasy 15 to enjoy extreme fishing. And then we had the first trailer for Episode Ignis for the DLC for Final Fantasy 15, which looked pretty good. That's coming December 13th, so it's coming right in time for Christmas. The big thing about it, though, is the composer for the music for the DLC is Yasunori Mitsuda, who most notably did the music for Chrono Trigger. So a guest composer, and a pretty well-respected one with that. I need to buy... No, I actually have Final Fantasy 15. I just need to get the Season Pass, I guess. Well, hopefully there's a sale soon. Then the final VR thing that they showed off was Invector, which is Avicii's music game, which is very amplitude frequency, thumper-esque style in presentation, which I noted down even before the guy said the same things. So, glad to see somehow I gave him a script, even though what I wrote down was on paper and it was probably fed to him for his earpiece. And then the final 2 things, Ore, spelled O-U-R-E, because apparently that's how it's pronounced, It looked very nice. Certainly had a Journey and Ico sort of feel. Apparently you're a kid that can turn into a dragon, because that's normal. That's out now. I don't know how much that is. If it is. It said it was out now. Ore on PS4. PlayStation Store Greece. Good to know. And then the final one is Mossmouth, and it's like, why do I recognise that name? And then I realised, oh crap, that's the guy that did Spelunky, and it's official. Spelunky 2 is happening. Coming in some point in 2018, I guess. The O-Ray game is £16, 20 euros. Can I actually get the American price? Apparently not. Unless it hasn't gone live yet. It's only live for Europe at the minute, and it's coming to America at some point. I don't know. Something. So then we get to the main section. So the first thing they show off, the really great artistic looking Ghost of Tsushima, set in, I think, 13th century, 14th century Japan, in the age of the uber age, I guess, of the samurai and all that. The new game from Sucker Punch. This is what they've done after Infamous. And hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's in 2018. Knowing our luck, it's probably 2019. Then we have the game from Pixel Opus called Concrete Genie, which was really probably the sleeper hit for me. Because it looks to be like Mark Echo's Getting Up, which, if you remember, that game was like you had to spray graffiti on walls and whatever to up your cred and stuff. But it's that sort of in this world, but you can create sort of living creatures within this art, and they can enact stuff with the world, so they can open doors through to new areas or flip switches to hit electric to open other doors and whatever. There also seems to be bullies about that are sort of picking on you and whatever. It really looked that sort of like there's an indie game that actually looks very interesting and appealing, if you will. Then Erica, which was very sort of FMV-esque, like your contradictions and your her stories and your was it late night or night shift or something? The FMV sort of action. FMV action sort of choose your own adventure style thing. That's what Erica seems to be, at least, anyway. Then we had here's a load of stuff that's on VR, some of which they showed earlier on the pre-show, but I actually got to make a note of all of them. So they had Ace Combat 7, Resident Evil 7 Gold Edition, which I think has a release date of, including the DLC that I previously mentioned, of December 12th. So yeah, you're getting that and the Final Fantasy DLC within a day of each other. What? Moss, Apex Construct, Bout to Blood, League of War, Skyfall, Sprint Vector, Smash Hit Player, which I didn't get much attention for because I was trying to note down the name, Starchild. Transference, that's the Elijah Wood one that looked pretty interesting at E3, the sort of scary thing. Ultra Wings and Eden Tomorrow, the fishing thing for Final Fantasy, and Dead Hungry. Then they added another one in, which was from London Studio, aka the guys that brought us, or Sony London at least, is the studio that brought us The Getaway. And it certainly seemed in that respect, because it was a London sort of guy who apparently was like special forces or whatever, or some sort of spy. And now they're trying to do stuff. It's like that bit that's in the VR thing when it's like the heist, the London heist, I think. So I guess it's that's now been developed into its own game called Blood and Truth. It looks to be sort of an action sort of game shooter style thing. Looks pretty fun. Again, be interesting to see how it's like hands-on, heads-on and whatever. Then they were talking about sort of exclusive sort of deals. So I don't know what was exclusive about some of these, but they had Far Cry 5 with apparently expanded co-op, so basically everything is now playable with your friends and whatever. That's coming February 27th. Hopefully the build is better than whatever they showed us at EGX. Monster Hunter World looked very nice, a little sort of new trailer for that. They also announced that the PlayStation Plus people will be getting a exclusive beta starting, I think, December the 9th through to December the 12th, so basically a weekend of that. And also, exclusive to PS4, there seems to be an Aloy skin or costume that you can have for your character. So yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn is sort of crossing over with Monster Hunter World. Then Call of Duty World War II, which looked Call of Duty. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it depends on your opinion. The big thing of coming from it, though, is they've announced that the first DLC, entitled The Resistance, will be coming January the 30th, with a 30-day exclusivity before it heads on to PC and Xbox One. So that means it'll be like 2nd or 3rd of March, probably, in terms of the time. Then they talked about, well, it was a new game from Codemasters, and it was very sort of MotorStorm in style of, like, it's not a serious sim, it's clearly trying to be a fun thing. It's going by the name of Onrush, all one word, which is a bit of a weird title, but it looked the sort of arcadey fun that driving games sort of should be. And then Battlefront 2, because apparently we need to see a trailer for that, and then again another brief tease of the single player, which is the thing that I'm most excited about, because I don't really give a shit about the multiplayer. We'll see. We've only got a few weeks to wait and see if the hype is crap. And then they talk about the exclusive. So first they bring up Insomniac, and we get sort of a story trailer for the Spider-Man game coming in 2018. Looked really good. Looked like a really interesting story. Teasers of the Osborns, teasers of Kingpin, and certainly teasers of Mr. Negative and all that. So, and then we get to Detroit, and this is the first bit of a two-part. Wait, they actually did this at a press conference. So basically, this little trailer bit showed us Kara, who is the woman that apparently, or the android that started this sort of uprising. And she's sort of in this house, and he says, I don't want you to go wrong again. And you basically, if you, I guess, discover stuff, you find out that, I guess, the guy got angry for some reason and basically destroyed the robot. and they called it in for repair, and she got repaired and fixed up. And in this bit, the guy who's a single parent, who knows what he's did to his kid's mother, gets angry and gets frustrated, and basically says how it's all the robot's fault and whatever. And then you get all the whole things of what happens next, which are obviously, with David Cage, it's going to be a butterfly effect, like God knows how many different choices. But the first one that they decided to go with was the dad has murdered his daughter and then takes it out on the robot because the robot caused it. It's ballsy. And there has been a lot of criticism. Personally, I think it's an interesting thing, because a lot of people were sort of saying, well, okay, I'll get my Switch, I'm happy with my family-friendly stuff, because I don't want this going to my kids. It's like, well, one, it's going to clearly be an 18 certificate game, so kids should be playing it, and two, there's going to be sort of topics that can be covered for adults. I don't know whether doing it in this light was the best way to do it. Like, actually showing, oh, you know, you're going to rest now. Clearly implying that he's killed her through domestic abuse. It's like, there's a different way to show it, but I commend them for actually putting it in, and for Sony to sort of say, we actually are okay with this. You know, certainly you never saw the seedier, dodgier aspects from the other games in their stuff. Like, they didn't, when Fahrenheit came out, they didn't focus on the bit where, spoilers, one of the characters basically has to cut his own fingers, or one of his fingers off, to the origami killer's pleasure. At least from what I can tell. Because I'm trying to stay as vague without ruining that thing, in case you haven't. I just did a sort of spoiler for one moment that's in it. But they didn't focus on that in anything that I saw in terms of what happened. So it's a ballsy thing to do. Certainly in the demo that I played, which was a different bit, I tried to sort of be on the human side, and I do sort of understand this time arguably the android that you're playing is in much more peril. But the backstory is that perhaps it was killed inappropriately by a misguided individual. So, does that mean it's morally right for the android to, let's say, kill him because basically he, in some situation or in some parallel universe, not only does the android get broken apart and whatever, but the daughter gets killed as well. So yeah, I'm accepting of it, but I'm not entirely 100% behind it. I think it's an interesting topic that's caused a lot of debate, which is probably the best thing that's come out of it. Then there was God of War with somewhat gameplay with, I guess, a mini-boss or a boss. The kid talking over and over to do stuff. That's a little bit worrying in terms of can I just have like prompts on the screen telling me what to do, or is this going to be in the mission where I'm going to know what to do and I don't have to have it all the time? So we'll see. Then Horizon Zero Dawn, the Frozen Wilds DLC was shown off. That is coming next week. So we're already getting crazy with that. Then the first full proper look, seemingly at sort of gameplay, for the Shadow of Colossus remake. Oh my god, it looked bloody beautiful. And in terms of how it looked in terms of gameplay, it looked... There was always been criticism of the mechanics of the original Shadow of the Colossus. Especially when it got HD-ified a few years back, and they sort of stood out in an even more beautiful looking game with the HD adaptation and everything. So remastering it properly and like remaking it is probably an important thing to make it stand the test of time even more. Because I think even right now, I'd say ICO, whatever you want to call it, would also need a full remake to be truly there. It's less understated because, of course, the mechanics are slightly different with Eco because obviously you haven't got a horse and that sort of stuff. But yeah, that looked very good. I think they've now said spring 2018, so looking forward to that. And then the first look, an exclusive title that everybody's waiting for. It turned out to be The Last of Us 2. But the twist was, one, no Joel and Ellie. We're exploring other characters. And two, Sony went crazy again. So the bit that they show has a character that is unnamed, and that's official. Or is named, but we don't know the name of that character, because it was redacted on the tweet regarding who played who. Turns out that this character is played by Laura Bailey, so she's in it. She's good to see. And her character basically gets dragged along the floor and hung from a tree, which is a bit worrying. And this other character of Emily, played by Emily Swallow of Mentalist and Supernatural fame, I guess, because she appeared in quite a lot of number of episodes of them. They're saying guest appearance because by the end of this, her character's basically getting killed by whatever happens, because Yara, played by Victoria Grace, is, I guess, captured and dragged in. And Emily wants to know the location of something, and Yara just spits in her face and refuses. And Emily says clip her wings, which is interesting terminology. So these two brutes force her down to the floor and smash a hammer into her upper arm, basically breaking it, I'm guessing. Which again, little unsettling for what you're doing. Then again, they did say in the trailer everything in this is rated from E to M for mature. So it's probably fair that it's there. And then one gets basically arrow through the head and the neck. The other one gets axe through his head from Yara. Lev shows up with the arrows. And then mysterious character grabs Emily with her legs as she's hanging up and basically chokes her out with her legs, sort of thing. And then they're concerned about, but she's one of them, and they say, just get her down. And then something comes through the woods, and then boom, Last of Us 2. And rightfully, I mean, again, this got criticism. I shouldn't say rightfully, but at least in this sense, because we know the topic nature of Last of Us is going to be dark because of how dark the first one got. With David Cage, you sort of expect it, but it doesn't have to be. Because Fahrenheit was a bit sort of, it had dark bits, but it was also sort of B-movie-esque. Heavy Rain was a drama thriller with some gory aspects and whatever. There was more supernatural stuff than anything regarding Beyond Two Souls. So you could expect adult stuff to come up, and you know, Jim Ryan, when asked about it in the media, basically said, at least to the Telegraph, at least where I'm getting this from, he said, quote, "We showed a lovely range of games last night. The Last of Us game obviously is a game made by adults to be played by adults. I shouldn't prejudge this, but it will probably be rated 18/M. And there's a market for those people who like that sort of game, and adults who like that sort of game, and I think we cater for that. And over the other end of the spectrum, there was Concrete Genie, which my 8-year-old decided was the game that she'd want to play. As a platform holder, we feel a platform a platform holder provides a platform, and the people who make games, whether they're our own studios or third-party publishers, bring content to the platform. We provide the platform and have to ensure the right content is played by the right people of appropriate ages. And then in terms of the context, he basically said how it's hard to do when you've only got a certain time limit and you've only got a few minutes to sort of give a taster as what they're doing. And it leaves me wanting more. I can see why people are going to be upset by it and everything. But in all honesty, to me, it whet my appetite probably more. It left me intrigued as to what it was, and the fact that it's seemingly going in a possibly much darker way, even though there were some pretty dark and sinister moments in the original and whatever. But the fact that obviously it's an established IP, Detroit doesn't apply, but because it's an established IP, I've got a feeling that Naughty Dog and Sony are like, people are aware of the fact that the previous game was an 18 and the subject matter is adult. And basically, it's one of the big games that they're going to be pushing for, which is probably coming out within the next 12 months. It'll probably be one of the big games for Christmas 2018, I would say. So the fact that they did that, again, I'm happy with. Perhaps the scene that they should have chosen might have been a bit different, but then it's the context, and then you've all got all these fan theories about, oh, is this character that person? Is this set in this time period? All that sort of stuff, which I'm not even going to get into, because there's other videos on YouTube that are perfectly good at that. So yes, all in all, even if you take out the two controversial bits, a pretty strong conference from Sony. Now, as I say, if you take out Detroit and Last of Us, and they didn't even happen, Concrete Jungle looked great. Guacamelee 2 and Spelunky getting announced on a Sony platform first, rather than, you know, an Xbox show, or, you know, on just a trailer on like a IGN or a GameSpot or whatever. I'm excited to see what's to come, and of course, I guess the next big one for Sony is going to be PSX in a couple of, well, sort of in around 6 or 7 weeks, mid-December time-ish. So we'll see. That's your gaming lot. There's wrestling content from me, there's Sip and Snacks from me, there's Sip and Snacks from Owen, there's AJ's film reviews, there's been a Versus that just went up in the last day or so regarding the original 4 of George Romero's Dead series of films. Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, and Land of the Dead. Along with, I think he reviewed Suburbicon amongst... and another film I can't remember off the top of my head. Got all that stuff. More content to come from me. Some wrestling stuff. And the next few days if you're into that. And there you go. That's my gaming lot for this time. I don't have to do Owen's sort of catchphrase line, because I never normally do on the gaming stuff. It just has an awkward finish that doesn't make sense. Is this awkward enough?